All right, guys, we're standing here with the Agonist. How you guys doing?
Not bad.
Well, good. Cool. Tell us what you guys are doing out on the road right now. You're promoting a new record?
Yep. We're promoting our new album, Lullabies for the Dormant Mind. So we've been touring for the past month or so with The Haunted.
Okay. Who produced the record?
Christian Donaldson. He's the guitar player for Cryptopsy and Mythosis, as well. He's a producer for a lot of bands in Canada, and basically he did our first record too. This time it's a lot different. He used a lot of new software and hardware tools, and as well new knowledge and our new material.
Okay. That's one of the questions I wanted to ask you guys. How do you guys embrace like the new technology like Pro Tools, or do you guys like to take a more approach like to the old school of recording when you go into the studios?
Well, I think it depends on the instrument, really. It depends on, what we're doing. For example, like, for recording my vocals, we used like a really sort of expensive tube mic for the clean singing, and it's not anything new. That's the kind of mics I've been using in recording studios for a really long time. In terms of, like recording the instruments and stuff, sometimes we'll use some of the newer technologies out of convenience or because it makes it easier to work with. But we're not opposed to anything, but we definitely don't want to go too far into the new technology, because then it kind of kills the warmth of the music and the whole realistic vibe.
Okay. Now, did you guys approach this record differently, like lyrically or music style wise? Did you guys sit down and say we want to go a different direction this time versus your old stuff?
Well, musically, sort of partially like a on purpose thing, like a literal like sat down and said, okay, let's like change it up a bit. But also before that even happened, while we were still touring our first album, we had already had a few songs written, so it wasn't like a conscious effort really in that respect. But then after we had those new songs and we felt that they were already different, we're like, hey, let's really look into this more and push more in this direction of like a European metal, a darker sound, with especially with Simon on drums. Our new drummer had pretty much changed everything. The whole rhythm section just took a lift and went in a whole new direction.
Yeah, because the first album was like, we had written a lot of those songs when we were like 18 and stuff like that, or like really young. So we had really evolved as musicians, being on the road, and got many influences from the bands we'd been on tour with. And like you said, Simon wasn't even on the first album, so having him on the second album was just a huge difference. So.
All right, well, what's one thing, because I talk to a lot of different fans when they come to these shows. I'm here all the time. What is one thing that the fans may not know, like being in a band like you guys, an extreme metal band? A lot of fans think you guys are, rich rock stars. You get to hang out. What is one thing that you would like your fans to know that maybe they have the wrong idea of? Is there any certain thing that you can pass on to them?
We work like 3 day jobs when we're at home each, just to pay the bills, so that we can come and live in a van that breaks down on us on the road to come and tour for like 15 people a night. So it's not really that glamorous, but I mean, it's what we like doing, and that's what touring is. So I mean, if they have the wrong idea, it's not glamorous at all. It's really rough, but that's something I guess you adapt into your lifestyle when you want to be a touring musician. So
now, is it hard for you guys squeezing into a little van like this? Does it get complicated? I mean, you guys get aggravated to be on the road like this constantly all the time?
It only happens, I think, after a long period. Like, it's like after, let's say, a month's time, maybe some aggravations will come out out of nowhere, where it's like, whoa, why is that person so mad all of a sudden? Like, but it's just a build-up thing, and it's understandable. Basically, we've only got one hotel room so far in this month-long tour, and we didn't pay for it.
yeah.
So we haven't been able to afford a hotel in this entire tour. We just sleep in the van every night. Or if someone offers their floor space to us, we sleep on their floor. That's all good.
Well, that's another thing. Do you find that a lot of the fans, especially, there's a lot of, with metal comes a lot of fans that are devoted to the bands. Do you have a lot of fans that come up and say, hey, you guys can crash on our place tonight? And
All the time.
Yeah, fans. I was just talking about that today. Actually, it's funny because, in this industry, you have certain people that are trying to make it super hard for you to get by and do what you're doing. Like, just in terms of like all the legalities of crossing into the United States, being Canadian, to play shows here and this and that. It's so hard, but then you get to the shows and the fans are just totally willing to help anything. They bring you food. They brought me a book. They give you stuff for a tour. They give you their floor space to crash in. They give you a shower. Like, fans are super supportive of us, and that's what makes touring a lot easier too.
Very cool. Whatever's
Yeah.
theirs is yours. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what is what I'm going to pass the mic to each of you. What is the one band that initially just infected you with metal and said, "This is what I've got to do for the rest of my life"? Sorry.
Well, I guess the first metal the first metal album I ever listened to was the Black Album by Metallica.
Okay.
My brother had a cassette of it, and that's pretty much that and Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses were the only two cassettes I listened to for like a year when I was like 12 years old. And that pretty much got me. I think the first metal song I learned on guitar was Fade to Black by Metallica, so I guess that was the first thing.
Cool.
I pretty much started off on like Marilyn Manson and Korn, that kind of stuff when I was in high school, and I guess the more I started getting into playing music, the more I got into European bands like Opeth, Emperor, and Slave. Those are my favorite bands, and those are my the bands that inspire me right now.
Yeah, I'd have to say the high school thing, Korn, seeing them up on stage at Woodstock and stuff like that, and that probably triggered a good amount of it for me. And then I started getting into the stuff like Meshuggah and everything. And that's when it's like really started getting into the real metal,
Okay.
That's really hard. I don't know. In high school, I was really into punk. I was like super into the Casualties and grunge, like Nirvana and stuff like that. I'd always go to my friends' shows. Like for sure, the first metal show I went to was like my friend's band playing at the bar or whatever, and I did that for like a really long time. And then I think after years and years of only going to my friends' shows, I was in a band, and then we started playing metal. And I think the first real quote unquote big metal show I went to was, I think it was Meshuggah and Down and System of a Down, and but probably the album that I really
This always happens, by the way. At least in one of my videos, there's always like something that goes wrong. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. I think the album that I think still stays with me as one of my favorites is probably Wages of Sin by Arch Enemy.
Okay, cool.